Welcome back again, everybody. This is my good friend Matt Wheeler. We grew up together throughout like middle school, high school areas. He is homeschooled, just in case you were wondering. I'm not sure exactly to what extent he was homeschooled. He might be a little bit more embarrassed about that than others, like myself. I have no problem with it. Um, but yeah, Matt, what do you do for a living, man?
Yeah, so I mean, not to get too ideological on you right now, but for a living, I'm a father of three little kids. They're 7, 5, and 4. And then I'm a husband to a beautiful wife. I've got a wonderful family, and I work 8 hours a day, sometimes a lot more, to support that. So the typical answer, or I guess what you were really asking for, what do I do for a living? Um, I work for a company called Concealed Coalition. We are one of the largest national concealed carry training providers in the country. And for them, I've done a lot of things. Started business development, went to the position of training director, and then this past July got moved over to the position of business development and partnerships. Um, so I get to connect with other companies in the industry and make sure that our students are getting the best possible information, the best possible opportunity. It's
What kind
fun.
of companies do you guys partner with?
Um, so I can talk about some of the ones that are done. I can't talk about a really exciting one that's on the cusp. Um, but one of the companies we've partnered with is this company called Kinesium. Um, and I mean, I'm if you're good with it, I'm gonna plug their product. I don't have a discount code for you because I'm not getting paid for this. The reason I want to talk about it is I've got three little kids and I also have guns. So the product at Kinesia, I wish I had one out here. The product that they make is this little motion sensor device. So mine is stuck to the inside of my gun safe, and anytime that gun safe door is opened, I get a critical notification on my phone, no matter
Oh,
where I am, that my gun safe that device has been moved. So theoretically, I mean, you could tie this to your liquor cabinet. You could put this in your sensitive documents. I've heard, I know for a fact that there is a disabled person out there that's using Kinesium to make their lives better. They have one hanging by their door, so when their service dog needs to go out, the service dog runs up and slaps it with its paw, and they get a notification, "Hey, your dog needs to go out." When the mailman gets there, they pull the mailbox down. Your mail's here. So I mean, there's a lot of cool applications, but for me, the biggest thing working with companies like that is I get to share my experiences with those products,
hmm.
and we get to make the world of firearms in houses a whole heck of a lot safer. So essentially, what I know is that if I'm traveling, if I'm out of state, and my wife has to open the safe in the middle of the night, I'm getting a notification and I'm getting woken up. Um, or if I'm like this happened a couple weeks ago, if I'm sitting there, like a good husband, good father, playing some Call of Duty, and my daughter and son are going crazy in the room that my safe's in, and they jump on the floor and the safe shakes, I get a notification. So obviously, I jumped up and I was like, "Hey, who's messing with my safe?" Like, we didn't touch it, Dad. But it's still good to know that no matter what happens when that device is moved, I get a notification, and it's just I don't know.
No, that's a cool
I didn't realize how
product.
much anxiety I had. But that it's stuff like that that can legitimately or will legitimately make our students, our customers' lives better, for knowing that they're out there. And some of these products don't have a ton of exposure, but they're really solid. So yeah, and then there's some industry giants that we work with on and off. Can't talk about them right now because I don't have any active contracts. But I do have a few lines in the water, so hopefully we'll have some of those come up.
That sounds like a couple of those are going to come through real soon. How did you Okay, so I mean, obviously I know you. It's been a long time, that what have we known each other for? Like what, 20 years now?
Yeah,
How old am I?
I'm 31. I think
Oh, I'm 30.
I met you when I was 9.
9. See, you got a better
Yeah,
memory than I do. I don't
yeah.
remember that.
When I met you, it was at the co-op at the church across from Northwestern, and you had this giant mohawk, and I thought it was awesome.
Not surprised.
Yep.
Yep.
ran around playing cowboys and Indians like you could back in the good old days
Oh
before
yeah,
before that got offensive.
dude. Too many things are offensive these days. But yeah, so what 9? So that's yeah, that's 21 years.
Yeah.
Boy, I feel like I'm saying that earlier than most people do. Most people get to like 50. I'm like, oh yeah, I know Joe for 20 years, man.
Right.
No,
Right. Yeah, it's been crazy, and I mean we've had some ups and downs. I was a bit of a turd. Um,
we've all been turds.
but we'll kind of leave that story for.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
so
okay, so how did you get into firearms?
um, so I was a cop for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean when I was little, my dad got us pellet guns because we had these squirrels that were literally chewing through the side of our house, getting into the garage, eating all the bird seed, tearing stuff up. It was it, it was they were pests, legitimately. So my dad's solution was to get us all pellet guns, and he and my brother would go out and they would actually get the squirrels, and um, I missed every single one, but I still got to shoot a lot. And the fundamentals of marksmanship are the same for a rifle, a pistol, a pellet gun, finger off the trigger, point in the safe direction, your sight alignment, trigger control, as far as your basic fundamentals, know your
Mm-hmm.
target and what's beyond it, um, and treat every gun as though it's loaded. It's it's the exact same for everything. So learning that when I was little definitely set me up for a better transition into law enforcement, where it became much more part of my life to have a gun on me. And then after that, I mean, most guys get into what I do because they're gun guys. Most guys and gals get into it because they're obsessed with guns. They nerd out about them, and that's not me. I got into what I do because as a cop, I couldn't put food on the table, and it got to the point one day I realized, well, actually, my wife walked up to me, and this made me so mad when she said it. But looking back, I'm really grateful. She said, "I think you're being called out of law enforcement. I think God is calling you out of law enforcement." And when she said that to me, I was literally mad. I was mad because from the time that I was little, I conflated a calling with a career.
Mm-hmm.
Like in order to be doing what you should be doing, in order to be making God happy and having purpose in your life, the thing that you did for work had to be from God, and it had to be your calling, and it had to serve other people. So I told myself that law enforcement is my calling. Looking back, I was really blind to it. But she told me that I think God's calling you out of law enforcement. I was livid. No, absolutely not. This is my calling. The Holy Spirit worked on me a lot. And I ended up putting in one single job application. I was finally like, you know what? Whatever. I'm gonna apply for other jobs. There, I applied. But it turned out to be the Conceal Coalition. My boss called me. I somehow convinced him to hire me. And 5 years later, last month, 5 years, um, I'm doing this, and I absolutely love it. But we can kind of get into the whole God part and testimony and story if you want to a little bit later. Um, but yeah, as far as getting into what I do now, I do it because I love teaching students. I love when that light bulb moment goes off, and I know what it feels like as a parent to feel completely vulnerable and completely helpless when your child is under attack. Um, and I don't want anybody else to ever have to feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I get in front of a group of people and share my story, where what happened in my circumstances, and give them tools and steps to and get through what they're going through and get over that hump of feeling vulnerable and feeling helpless. I mean, that's what it's about, and that's what drives me in this space. So you can show me cool guns. I love cool guns. They're really cool, but I'm not going to nerd out. I love to shoot, but I'm also not going to nerd out. That's just kind of not who I am. But yeah, so that's kind of long-winded, beating around the bush of
What?
kind of. Wait, how does Mr. President put it? Got to weave the story,
Go for it.
something like that.
What are the steps that you've taken to kind of like combat that vulnerability that you mentioned?
Um, so the specific moment of vulnerability that I draw back to when I'm teaching was a spiritual attack that my daughter, when she was 3, was under. As far as the spiritual side of it, I'll tell you the story in just a minute, and we'll get into that if you're good with that.
Yeah, go for it.
But as far as the physical side, I don't go downtown. I don't go in large crowds late at night. And my mentality, what I've learned about being situationally aware, having that situational awareness, there's for those of you that might have taken a class or done some studying, and I'm sure you've heard this before, the color codes of awareness. You're in code white, you're in code yellow, you're in code orange, code red, code black. That's really, it's a good way to explain how a lot of people live. But the way that I was taught to think about it was a baseline. So my baseline is this. Right now, I'm at home. It's late in the evening. I don't expect there to be a bunch of crashing inside. Now, if it was noon or 2 o'clock, yes, I would expect there to be a ton of crashing inside because my kids are wild. But my baseline right now is no crashing inside. So if I hear crashing inside, I know something's wrong.
Right.
And just like in the middle of the day, if I'm not hearing anything, and how old you're?
A little over a year.
Okay. So you haven't quite experienced this yet, but you will. The moment everything goes silent as a parent, your spidey
Then
senses
there's
start.
a problem.
There's
yeah.
a problem. Something's happening. Someone's fighting. Someone's destroying some type of beloved personal property that you have. So it's all about baseline. So like if I go out to the gas station and it's the QT in the middle of the day and nobody's there, I don't see anybody inside. When I walk in, they don't say, "Welcome to Moe's," or whatever they say at QT. Then I know something. That I know
Welcome to
something's
Moe's.
wrong, right? I could. They always greet you when you walk in.
Yeah.
But then I know something's wrong, and that's below baseline. Versus if I walk in there and there's a bunch of people screaming, that's above the baseline. Something's wrong, and that's what cues me in on. Hey, I need to first off figure out my exit strategy, because the best way to win a fight is to just not be in one. And if I can't exit, then I've got to figure out, what do I have with me? Do I have pepper spray? Do I have Axon sells tasers to civilian? There's the burn a pepper ball gun. Do I have a pistol on me? What's the tool that I have, and what tool do I need? So I mean, that's kind of how I approach life in general, as far as going out and about with my family.
Do you think that it was like beneficial for you now, as far as like assessing situations, like you being a cop, like the experiences that you had being a cop, do you think that impacted you in a positive way moving forward to where you are today, as far as like the situations that you find yourself in? Or do you think that makes you a little bit more paranoid?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a really good question. I think it definitely made me more paranoid. I have had to chill out a whole heck of a lot since leaving law enforcement. Primarily because my body just couldn't handle it. There's a weird phenomenon. When you're a cop, and I can't relate this to getting deployed in the military because I've never been in the military. But when you're a cop, there's this weird phenomenon where things don't bother you that should bother you, that would normally bother somebody. And the moment you leave, they're going to bother you. But while you're a cop, while you're on the job, they don't bother you. And I don't know how many other cops have experienced this, but I found this to be my experience, where all of these traumatic things that I witnessed, that I went to, that I handled, that I did, it was fine. Like, no big deal. I'd wake up the next morning, throw my vest on, and I was good. I didn't have anxiety. I wasn't paranoid when I went out. The moment I left law enforcement, all of that changed. I suddenly felt completely alone, completely vulnerable as far as self-defense goes. And I don't know, it was just this really odd realization that I'm not a cop anymore. I don't have the radio. I don't have backup. I don't have a bulletproof vest. I'm it. Like, if something goes down, I'm it.
Do you think that that's kind of like maybe like a symptom of like feeling like you don't have like the brotherhood or anything anymore? I mean, because I would imagine, I haven't been a cop. I've been in the military, but we come from two slightly different backgrounds. But do you think it's more like, okay, so when you're a cop and you're in it, you're in the uniform, you're doing the work, you can call, your partner or, the guys back at the station or whatever. And like, they're going to be there and they're going to understand what you're going through and they're going to be able to help you de-escalate the situation or, handle all the issues. But like now you're in a completely different environment. They're not around anymore. They may not be able to like talk to you, that kind of thing. They're definitely not going to be like 5 minutes out if something goes down. So do you think that that's kind of it? Or is it like, something different?
Yeah, I haven't really put that much thought into it. I just kind of took it for face value, and I think you're definitely onto something. There was something to the debrief. After some craziness went down, we would always, as a shift, get together, even if it wasn't that night, even if we had calls pending and we had to go handle whatever, we would always at some point get together and talk about it. Like, let's review the body cam, what went well, what should have gone better, what went poorly.
Mm-hmm.
And that debrief helped me mentally process what I couldn't. Because the one thing you can't do when you're in law enforcement is take the job home to your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think very unique to first responders, um, because as a cop there are violent things that you see and that you witness on a week to week basis. Hopefully not a day to day basis, but definitely a week to week basis. And I think that it's a little bit different. I've heard, don't want to mention call
Yeah,
any
yeah,
names,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I listened to a podcast of this really well known Navy SEAL. And he talked about being in law enforcement and how it was different from the military because there was no debrief, there was no downtime. You were on and then off and then on and then off. Versus military, you're on for 6 months and you are on 100%. And then somehow you have to go home and shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that comes with its own unique challenges, I'm sure. But in law enforcement, you're on for 12 hours and then you have to go home and feed your 2-year-old a bottle. And witnessing the type of things that you witness as a cop and then going home and having to completely shut it off is it's really difficult. So there are cops that bring that home with them, that they sit in it, they stew in it, they think about it, they end up becoming addicted to their work. What I tried to do initially was verbally process it through with my wife. And then I started realizing that hearing secondhand the trauma that I was experiencing was having a profoundly negative effect on her. So I
Yeah.
could no longer do that to her as far as emotionally dump on her from what I was seeing on a day-to-day basis because I mean it wasn't building her up.
Right.
It was tearing her down and I couldn't do that. So once I left law enforcement and I think and I playing with this concept, so maybe I'm way off, but I think that there's another thing that happens when you're on the job, you're constantly moving forward. You're constantly running scenarios through your mind of when I pull up on this call, where are the exits? If I get shot at in the car, how do I duck out? When I pull this person over, am I going to get hit from behind by a car on the interstate? Like there's constant scenarios that you're running through your head. You're always moving forward. When you leave law enforcement, you stop. And the moment you stop, all that stuff that you've been leaving behind you catches up. So it took me a long time to be okay mentally after being a cop from stuff that didn't bother me while I was on the job.
That's pretty impressive, honestly.
Really
Like,
strange.
just the amount of stuff that like you guys have to go through to like deal with that. I mean, because like from my, you and I's friendship, I've always kind of viewed you as a very very laid back guy. You like to like talk a lot of shit and have a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
it's. I never got to see you in uniform while you were. I mean, we just lived in different parts of the world, but
Right.
I mean, it's hard to picture you in that. But I've been thinking about that, just kind of a lot. You mentioned the like not being able to take things home and like talk to your wife about it or like talk to your, girlfriend, whatever. But freaking I think that that's like a larger problem with like not because I've had a I'm all over the place.
You're good.
I've kind of had a harder time with like missing the boys, like missing the homies. Like they're always there for you. You need something, you call them. They're like right down the hallway, or you freaking like hey, like my car's broke down. Can you pick me up? Like they'll be right there in like 2 seconds, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like, and
Let me.
guys are different to talk to. So like, if you go through some shit, you're gonna talk to your boys about it. But
Mhm.
like now, it's just like when you're post military, post police career, you're now it's just you and your wife, and
Right.
I feel like that brotherhood is like something that is kind of like missing, especially these days when everything is just like so disconnected. Everybody moves to like very different parts of the world, and then social media, and everybody gets focused on like one thing or the other.
Right. Let me ask you a question. And just to kind of piggyback off what I said, I was only in for under 5 years. Think about guys that are doing it for 20, 30 years,
Oh,
or
they're
even 10, 15. Like,
institutionalized.
I don't know how they're not. But let me ask you this. So I experienced the exact same thing leaving law enforcement. The guys weren't there. The camaraderie just ceased to exist. Is it similar in the military where once you get out, all of a sudden you feel, and whether or not it's true, you feel ostracized. You feel like you're no longer part of the group because
Oh,
you left the group.
100%.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering
It's
if it was any different from law enforcement.
no, I mean, I have a lot of good friends from the military, and I stay in pretty good touch with everybody. I have a unique problem where I like to call people way too much. But I
I've been the happy recipient of quite a few of those ones. I love it.
yeah,
I
but
suck at calling people.
that's okay. There's always got to be that one guy. That's my calling, is I got to call people. But no, I mean, it was weird. I mean, I left the military under extenuating circumstances that are not normal. But the immediate shift from like I didn't realize how much it was gonna hit me, going from like on a like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I was still in the Marine Corps, I was doing all
Mhm.
my processing out stuff, and then Tuesday hit, I got on the plane, left, and then like I still feel like I'm in. I feel like I'm just going on vacation, going on leave, but then it's just like a really long leave, and now
Yeah.
I don't see anybody anymore.
Right.
And then it kind of like leaves you and passes you by, because like I do still have a lot of friends that are in, and I'll talk to them from time to time, and they're like, oh, like one of my very close friends, he was my roommate while I was in Hawaii, and he's now at my original unit that I started at. And I talked to him like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was just like, oh yeah, so I'm working in the QA division now, which is like quality assurance. They do like all the sign offs on like making sure maintenance is perfect on the aircraft and everything.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, all these things are great, and it kind of like hit me a little bit. I was like, man, I kind of miss it. Like I feel like that's my unit, but it's not. It's somebody else's. Like somebody else has picked up that flag, if you will, and is carrying it on. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like I didn't realize that someday I would be at this stage in life where I'm moving on to it like just a different path.
Mhm.
And it has been a little bit hard to figure out exactly how to still have that camaraderie and find the right people to be around, the right guys to have good community with. But
Yeah.
that's why I'm here talking to you. So,
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it took me 5 years, almost on the nose, to learn how to have friends outside of law enforcement. Um,
oh, it's
because
so
when
different, dude.
when I left on a Friday, I drove my patrol car with all of my stuff inside it: my gun, my badge, my belt, all of my uniforms, my ammo, everything that I had. I drove it to the station. I had to carry it in, hand the quartermaster the keys, and start helping put things away. Um, and then I left. I got picked up, or yeah, yeah, no, my wife came and picked me up, and it was just this instantaneous. You're not here anymore, and it it sucked for a long time. Um, and I had told myself for the entire time that I need to have guy friends. I need to have guy friends. I was always making excuses. There was always something else to do. I had to work. Kids needed this. The wife needed this. And I never went out and I never found guy friends. And I mean, let's be honest, it's difficult to find guys that are like minded in
Very,
today's
very
society
hard.
if you're focused on moving forward. there's plenty of guys that just like to just sit back and chill and play video games with every waking moment and watch a ton of crap on their phone that is destroying their soul. And like those guys are easy to find. The guys that are hard to find are the people that are trying to move forward and trying to elevate themselves and die better than they were born. Maybe not born, but finish their life
Yeah, I get
stronger.
what you mean.
Finish their life stronger than when they became an adult.
Yeah.
I ended up finding that it was an act of God. There's a church close to our house that we live in now that I ended up going to, and first day there, met a couple guys, started hanging out, and one of the first guys that I met is super into disc golf. I was also super into disc golf for a really long time, and then we connected and bonded over that. I started hanging out with the guys that he plays with. I got back into it, and now I've got a group of guys that are like-minded. We all hang out occasionally and play disc golf and are interested in each other's lives. And I know I've got a stack of people that I can call that live close, that if I need something, I can trust them to deliver, you know? Sorry,
No.
I have a really bad habit of finishing sentences with
No, you're good,
with a filler
man.
word.
No, I heard this thing the other day, and it made me really, it got me really interested. I can't remember where I heard it, but I wrote it down, and it was this thought that trust is nuanced. That's what it was. I'm reading this book called Your Next Five Moves. Do you know who Patrick Bet-David is?
Yep. I've heard the name. I haven't listened to any of his stuff. I haven't read any of his books. I've heard the name, and I know he's quasi famous.
Yeah, I'd say he's pretty famous. He's got a really big podcast. Which,
yeah, for sure.
Dude, I watched his 8-hour live stream of the election last year. Wild, dude. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure he went out to get like all the credentials and everything to do the
Nice.
news. You know how like on election night, different news networks will be like, oh, this
they
person's
call
gonna
it, yeah.
win. Yeah, so they
Yeah, they
did
call
all
it states.
that, and they did this wild like 8-hour live stream, and I watched the whole thing.
Great. That's great.
But
Yeah,
it was,
I think I was watching one as well. I don't really watch that channel anymore. But I think I was on Crowder
oh
when
yeah,
that happened, yeah. But yeah, I haven't listened to Patrick Bet-David yet. I need to. I found myself getting sucked into an echo chamber where I was only listening to people that I agreed with. So I've started expanding out into people that I know for a fact I don't agree with, deliberately listen to their podcast to try and get them to convince me that I'm wrong, because I mean, being wrong is how you become right. So I
Yeah.
haven't gotten to him yet. I don't know where we stand as far as my views and his views, but I'm excited to. But sorry, I cut you off. Long rabbit
No,
trail.
you're
What were
good.
you saying about him?
I think he's a really intelligent business guy, and I bought his book, Your Next Five Moves,
Mhm.
and there was a line in there that was just talking about the different levels to trust and how trust is nuanced. Like, I might trust you to talk about certain things, but then I'm not gonna trust you to take my car to go get maintenance done on it. Like you're gonna have different levels of trust for different people, and how you're gonna have to just maneuver that. And
Like I would trust somebody with every single dime to my name to take it off where I can't even see it and where they could do whatever with it. I would 100% trust them, but I would never trust them to go pick my wife up from the doctor's.
exactly, yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was just kind of curious, like with because you and I grew up slightly differently. So like, how do you view trust?
I mean, it's definitely something that is both earned and freely given. Um, I think if you sit around and wait for everyone to gain your trust, then I think you're going to have very few people that you trust. On the other
Do you,
hand, if you go out on a limb, I mean, life is about taking chances. Sometimes
Mhm.
we have to go out on a limb and we have to place trust in somebody that we don't know 100% if we can trust. Because the only way you can 100% know if you can trust somebody, you have to literally live with them every moment for 20 years. And even
Yeah.
then, you still might not know them completely.
Mhm.
But I mean, I definitely get the concept of nuanced trust. I would be concerned about it in an informational sphere, because I think people with various backgrounds can cross pollinate into other topics. And I think that they have legitimate views. Like if somebody has an incredibly high IQ and they devote a bunch of time to considering historical moments and considering historical events, then they're probably pretty smart, even though they're technically not a historian. And I can probably learn a lot of things from them.
Right.
So I mean, there's obviously that part, but yeah, I mean, I think trust is something as much as it's earned, it's freely given with some significant risk.
Yeah. I Dude, it's so hard to. I feel like it's really hard to trust people these days because so it feels like a lot of society is first and foremost like out for themselves. Like, what can I get out of this? And dude, finding those right people to trust and finding good like-minded people is like feels like it's a constant challenge. But I don't think that's ever gonna go away.
I have a wild harebrained theory about why that is.
Why?
The how do I say it? I think 99% of people, especially men, are highly addicted to something. Could be a variety of things. It could be pornography, it could be gambling, it could be alcohol, it could be whatever.
Nicotine, cocaine, meth, you name it.
Right, it could be drugs. I wouldn't classify nicotine as a drug. But I mean nicotine, caffeine, drugs. I think I put a pouch in while we were talking.
A little bit of justification there.
There we go. And in order to have a severe addiction to something that is incredibly damaging to you, that's either assaulting your body, your mind, or your soul, you have to be putting yourself first. One of the anecdotes to addiction is learning how to put others first and learning to be selfless. That's not the first thing that I would tell somebody, hey, this is an anecdote to the addiction that you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
But it is one of them. And with everyone being highly addicted, or 99% of people being highly addicted to something, I think those people that are highly addicted to something are selfish. In order for a body of people to be controlled, that body of people, I'm not making any hypothetical theories here, I'm not making any accusations, but in order for a group of people to be controlled, that group of people must be dependent on something that you can provide or dependent on something that you can take away. So theoretically, if there was an interest to control a large group of men or to, I don't know, destroy the family structure in America so you can have easier access to the children so that you can teach those kids and conquer the nation by taking the child, then you would just get those people addicted to something. Because once they're addicted to something, they can't think about anything but that. And if anything gets in the way of that, they'll do what they need to do to cut it out. So that selfishness of addiction, pause, let's rewind just a little bit. Addiction is an ultimate goal because it causes selfishness. And that selfishness erodes any possibility of trust. Any possibility of trust between us and our neighbors erodes or further erodes the quality of our community. And the moment we lose our community, we have nothing but ourselves and our family. But the problem is that level of addiction also erodes the family. So then all of a sudden everybody's isolated. Nobody trusts anybody. And you have a group of sheep.
It's a mass scale divide and conquer.
I mean, if you wanted, I'm not saying anybody wants to do it, but if you wanted to do it, that would be a really good way.
Well, I mean, I think that this is becoming more and more prevalent. Like just as I look around in like basic life, that community is a hard one to even like see anymore.
It's
sure, there's little. Oh yeah, it's almost non-existent. Like there's definitely little pockets of community here and there. Like the people that you work with or the people you go to church with or, like whatever.
Most of the time we call little pockets of community cults.
Well, usually that comes with some kind of cult leader who just wants to fuck everybody. So
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but use it. Let's
I,
let's.
I'll,
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
but I mean that's always how it ends. It always starts out
Right.
beautiful,
Right.
but that it always ends poorly.
Uh,
But the no, it's I think it's a lot harder for people to find community these days because there has been so much like isolation of everybody. Because do you know all the people in your neighborhood?
Not even close.
Neither do I. Like,
I've been here
if
for
something,
6 months, and I think I've shaken that neighbor's hand once or twice.
yeah, exactly. Like, ha, and like if you don't know all the people in your neighborhood, like how could your neighborhood come together to do
Well,
anything? Like
so,
what happened? What happened? Like let's say a freaking hurricane happens or a tornado or something or whatever. Everything else around you is wiped out except your neighborhood.
mhm.
Are you guys going to be able to put something together to be able to like survive? Okay.
I mean, I think
Are you
eventually
going to be able to work
in
cohesively?
I think eventually in that circumstance we would, but it goes back to nuanced trust. And in
Mm-hmm.
order to put trust in somebody that you don't know, it requires a lot of risk. And especially when you have young kids, putting trust in strangers requires a risk that most of us aren't willing to take
Mm-hmm.
because the prevalency of abuse, of things that are going to forever damage your child that your sole mission is to protect, has created this nightmare that we live in, this hellish landscape of I'm not going to risk trusting you because I can't because I have a child.
Yeah.
I don't know how we get over that.
I don't know either. I've been wrestling with that one for a while. It's like I love the guys I work with. They're phenomenal. But like we don't live in the same neighborhoods. Like we live actually semi spread out. So like if we want to do anything together, it's like an roughly, somewhere between an hour to an hour and a half for like, multiple parties to even get together to do something. So like how could you ever come together and have a cohesive unit, do anything? And like this probably better than I do. Like raising kids is difficult. Like you need a little bit of help sometimes.
Yeah.
And like, if you look back like 60 plus years ago, you have
You
these
had
really,
you had multiple generations living in the same house.
well, yeah,
You got away
multiple
from that too.
generations living in the same house. And you also had very tight knit communities. You knew all your neighbors.
Takes a
You
village to
knew you
raise a child.
exactly.
Yeah.
And like, you'll see this. Well, I don't know if I can specifically say that, but I can kind of like allegedly say that like you see more of that in like third world immigration type
For sure.
areas like
I mean, anecdotally, I would 100% agree with that assessment. Sure. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think we have like studies and facts to back that up, but I think if
No.
you look at those communities as a whole, you wouldn't.
Well, and like why has that been so eroded in like United States culture? Like why do we even have a culture anymore? Like what is that about? Like I feel like things have drastically changed from when we were kids to like now.
Right.
And it's been 30 years.
Right. So that actually brings up something. I'm gonna pull it up. Um, let's hope I can. I think I left my. I do a devotional every morning, and I left my notes inside.
We can take a
Um.
break and you can go grab your notes. You want to take a break?
No, I
Grab
think
your
it's
notes,
right
we'll
here.
come back.
I think it's right here. Unless you need to pee.
I could pee. I
All
think
right.
better when I pee. All right, we're
All
gonna
right.
take a quick break.
Let's take 2 minutes.
I'm not gonna change anything. We're just gonna leave it where it is. I'll cut it in post. And we're back.
Let's go. All right. So, you have a nice pee?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Awesome. Fantastic. 21 seconds. Look it up. Um, it's
I don't know what that
it's
means.
the amount of time it takes an adult mammal to fully empty their bladder. 21 seconds.
An adult mammal, does that include elephants?
I would assume so. A large
21
screen.
seconds. So you're telling me I pee the same rate as an elephant?
Probably not same volume, but same rate. Yeah.
I'm
All
going
right.
to have to fact check that one.
All right.
All
So,
right, where were we?
we were talking about families. We were talking about why families taking care of each other and that sense of community is gone. And I read something in 1 Timothy 5 a couple days ago that was exceedingly convicting. It made me angry, and I love when scripture makes me angry because that means that there's something inside of me that's I need to change.
Mm-hmm.
But it says, and for context, it's talking about instructions for the church. It's talking about how to relate to older men, older women, younger women, widows, etc. in your church. And then it said, but if anyone does not provide for his relatives, especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. And that hit me. And I was like, wait a second. That's not just saying your father and your mother, because obviously in the 10 Commandments, it says honor your father and your mother. But
Sure.
that's not just talking about your father and mother. That's talking about your brother, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your grandmother. Our family structure is representative of the greater church structure as a whole, which is representative down to a marriage. I mean, scripture talks about the church being the bride of Christ.
Right.
It talks about the husband and wife relationship mirroring Christ in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And then the familial relationship mirrors the church. The larger community as a whole, the church body mirrors a bride with the groom, with Christ.
Sure.
And I think the community as a whole, like a church is supposed to be the community. It's the community of believers. So I think that when my dog's barking, I apologize. I think that when we
Couldn't hear it.
degrade our communities to the point where we don't look out for each other, I mean, obviously it's not good. But again, it's this problem of how do we get over the risk, knowing that there are predators in our community that we don't know about, knowing that there are people that would quickly hurt a child that we don't know about. How do we as parents get over that risk and build the community that God calls us to have?
Oh, that's a complicated one.
I know. These are the things that plague my mind at 2:00 in the morning.
Ditto. Just maybe not 2:00 in the morning because I knock out. But I don't know, man. That is a hard one. And also, like, what do you do with family members that are like detrimental to the family unit,
Right.
that don't share the same belief systems? Like, how do you combat that? Because that's a complicated one. That doesn't mean you don't love them. That doesn't mean that you don't want to do well for them. That doesn't mean you don't want to take care of them. But also, what kind of dangers do you run into allowing them to have a consistent influence on your kids as they grow up?
Yeah.
How do you handle that one?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't have the answers.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We're 30. We don't have it
Right.
figured out. We
Right.
might know a little bit more than 20-year-olds, but not much.
Not much. Yeah, I mean, what I've been diving into lately is first and foremost, and that's part of the question for sure. But first and foremost, how do I tackle being the best husband, being the best father that I can possibly be in a society, in a culture, in a world where men are the target of any degradation possible, any and all degradation possible? Because there's FBI studies to back it up. If you take the father out of a household, you are breaking that house, you are breaking those children. So in a world where men are constantly being attacked, for, and I'm not discrediting and I'm not discounting and I'm not saying that women aren't attacked too. What I'm talking about is men, though. In a world where men are constantly under attack, how do we stand up? How do we say, no, you're not going to do this to us? And how do we recognize the attacks as they're incoming so that we can not be torn from our families by the forces of evil that are working in this world? I mean, that's what I've been like really consciously struggling with and trying to figure out.
What do you mean by like how do you
To the point where
recognize the
I'm almost
threats?
about to start a podcast about it. A podcast of me learning, and hopefully it can help other people.
Well, this is the beautiful thing about life. We're all learning. I love the concept that okay, everybody is doing today for the first time ever. Doesn't matter what age you are. Everybody's doing today for the first time. So guess what, man? Nobody knows what's gonna happen. Nobody knows what's coming, and nobody has it figured out. So, but hopefully we can all learn from each other as we go. I mean, I would argue I got a better education, hanging out with you and other friends when I was growing up than, just like learning from the adults that I was around.
Well, I
Like, it's
mean,
just like,
that's something that struck me as well recently. The sum of what I know, the sum of how I know how to be a father, how to be a husband, wasn't taught to me. It was modeled for me by my father, which was modeled for him by his father. But it
ooh,
was
yeah.
modeled for me by my father in a setting where I was focused on playing outside, building forts, shooting stuff with bows, and then when I was older, daydreaming about taking the girl I liked out. I was completely oblivious to the fact that I was learning, or should have been learning, those life lessons that I now need, and that I'm sure were modeled to me quite well by my father. But I don't know how to do that because I wasn't paying attention. And there's too few resources out there for guys that are just I don't know what to do in this situation. I feel like I'm trailblazing, and I know that other people have gone through it. In order to leave a better society than we were born into, we have to not only take over the sum of knowledge that was passed down from our parents, the good and the bad, and then we have to pass down what we learned to our sons and our daughters, and that just continues going for generations.
Oh
But
yeah.
I think there's a massive disrupt between the knowledge of wise men and the knowledge and what their sons learn from. That sequence is broken, and I don't know how to fix it. But I mean, my goal to fix it is I'm going to learn as much as I can, and maybe leave some videos for my sons to watch when they're older, and try to be as
Dude,
intentional as
that's
I
also
can.
what I was thinking, right? Like,
Yeah,
how cool would it be to be able to look back at your parents and be like, oh, so this is what you were thinking when you were 30 and
yeah,
I was, 2.
yeah. And
Like,
the key to the house is vulnerability. You have to be vulnerable. If you can't be vulnerable as an older man that's already learned these things, then you're not teaching your sons anything, because they see you as you've already figured this out. But if you can't be vulnerable and tell them, no, I didn't have it figured out, this is where I was and this is where I am now, they're going to be able to relate to you somewhere on that path. And once they are able to relate, that's when they start learning.
right, but how do you get them to relate? Because how often did your dad tell you something and you were like, oh, well, yeah, but you don't know what it's like to be me.
Mm-hmm.
And like to a point that kind of is a thing because our parents were, high school kids or whatever in like the what 70s and 80s
Mm-hmm.
roughly.
Yeah,
And then we were high school kids in the
2010s.
mid 2000s, 2010s, yeah.
Golly, I'm old,
Right?
but also young to some people.
But also look at how much society and life changed between the 80s and the 2010s. And like
I
how
mean,
much is that going to change again between now and the 40s? You
I
know.
think. Sorry.
No, I mean I think you're definitely on track with the elderly knowledge has been broken. Like that
Hmm.
does need to come back. And I feel like that's a symptom of the lack of community. Because if we had more community and we had a good society where elders felt the need to, have that kind of input, we wouldn't have as many problems, as we do. But I also feel like that's a symptom of parenting. It's like this whole
So
spider web of things.
it is. I would posit that most of it comes down to the unwillingness or inability to be vulnerable, though. It's the onus of what the student learns is on the instructor, on the
Right.
teacher.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you don't have a good teacher, you're not going to learn. And I'm not talking about having a teacher that's knowledgeable or has all the answers. I'm talking about a teacher that knows more than you do, but they can connect with you on some level. Every single human being has their story. What made you you?
right.
What took you from an innocent little baby to the giant POS that you are now, or the giant POS you used to be, and then learned how to not be?
Yeah.
Um, and that journey is relatable to every single human being on some level or another. You just have to figure out exactly what were my pivotal moments, exactly what is my story? How did I get here? And that's hard because that takes talking about the worst moments of your life, talking about your deepest, darkest secrets. Because I promise you, if men stood up and looked at their boys and said, you know what, I didn't have the same struggles that you did, these were the struggles that I had. And you told them, you broke it down. This is when I sinned. This is what I was prone to do. And then looking back on my life, this is what, going back to that 99%, what addiction was created when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
Because addictions are created when you're a child. For the most part, they're a coping mechanism because you can't emotionally deal with what you're going through. If older men can get down to the nitty gritty and get down to the raw facts, which takes vulnerability, which takes embracing pain, then younger men can't learn from them. And I think I know for a fact, it's my job to break a cycle of not being vulnerable and not being open and willing to share the deep dark stuff,
Sure.
because that's where you connect with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
When I teach a class, I teach concealed carry classes. When I teach a class, I open that class with a story about my daughter and a spiritual warfare that she was going through. I end up crying every single time I tell that story. If I even think about the story, I end up crying. I don't like crying in front of a group of 15 to 60 people that I've never met before.
Right.
That hurts. That's not comfortable. But at some moment in that story, every single person relates. Whether it's emotionally, I know what that feels like. Whether it's logically, I've experienced something like that before. They relate. Once I have, it has nothing to do, almost nothing to do with concealed carry. It has everything to do with connecting to another human being on an emotional level. Once you're able to connect with another human being, you can then take that connection, because that builds trust. You can take that connection and expand it and put knowledge into that person. So that's why I say the job of the learning is on the teacher. The responsibility of the student learning is on the teacher to be able to connect and relate to that student.
It definitely can be, but I also think that um, part of it, and this is just my point of view, part of it I think is, if we're gonna equate this back to the elders needing to teach younger people, you also have to be a teacher that the younger generation is gonna look at and say, I want to learn from that person.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do feel like there is a certain amount of people in the generation above me that are like, okay, I have all this knowledge. I'm going to teach you, this, and I'm going to impart this knowledge to you. And maybe they'll be vulnerable about it. Maybe they won't. But I also have to like look at it and be like, do you have something that I actually want to learn? Like,
Mhm.
what's the lifestyle that you're living? Like, are you an elder worth listening to or not? So I do think that there is another set of onus on that teacher. Not only do they, do they need to make it something, they have the responsibility to connect with the student, but they also need to be somebody who is continuing to grow and continuing to learn and continuing to be better themselves in their own journey, because like your journey doesn't just stop now that you're teaching other people things, because like we're all teaching everybody at the same time. This is one of the biggest things that I learned in the Marine Corps. I my my first couple of years in the Marines, I wanted so badly to be friends with the older people, the corporals, the sergeants, and all that. But then as I was going through like my first year, I realized like all of my best friends were these corporals and sergeants that were getting out. Like they were going to be gone, the next year. And so then I realized I needed to be, if I wanted to be successful and, have a good career, I needed to actually get to know the junior guys that were coming up and like not hate on them so much. Cause like
Yeah,
those are going to be the guys I'm spending the most time with. Like I'll be with them for 3 out of the 4 years instead of, just one.
100%.
And it took me a little bit to realize this, but there were some really, really smart younger people that were coming up underneath me.
Hmm.
And, at first, like because of the older generation of corporals and sergeants that I had, there was a little bit of a culture of, oh, you don't know anything because you're brand new. So I'm not going to listen to you. But then, like, as I got to that stage, I was like, hold on. Some of these kids are smart and they know a lot more about some of this stuff than I do. And I've been doing this for 3 years.
Hmm.
So like you kind of have to like have like like you said, like the vulnerability and kind of like that humbleness to be like, I can learn anything from anybody at any time,
Yep.
because it could be somebody older than you that's teaching you something really important, but it also could be your kid that's teaching you something really
100%.
important.
And you can't be an effective leader. You can't effectively teach anybody anything until you view yourself as their servant. The person that you are teaching, you are their servant. We have this idea or this concept of leadership, of a leader is somebody that stands up in a time of need and says, "Hey guys, I got it. Follow me." But in reality, a true leader is someone that walks up in your moment of need, picks up your burdens, and says, "There's a better place. I'm going to help you get there. Let's go."
Yeah.
It's not you as the leader, you're not the goal. The goal has to be a higher power. If you want to actually be successful, the goal has to be Christ. And in order to learn from someone, now I'll preface this by saying we have a responsibility, whether or not our fathers are seeking Christ, whether or not they are seeking to be better than they were, we have a responsibility to learn from them as much as we can, because that's how we advance our that's how we advance the generation. Even if
Hmm.
the only thing that you're learning is what to not do, that's fine. You have to learn that. As the child, you are beholden to go learn that from your parents. But as people that you seek out to, I want to be more like, I'm going to learn something from this guy. Those are the people that are chasing after Christ, that are further along, have longer in it. And if I'm if I become that person, my family, myself, and my kids are going to be better off for it. So I 100% agree with you.
What's your take on well, I mean, I guess you and I haven't gone to church in a long time together.
Right.
So I don't know what
No,
kind
hit
of
me with
church
it.
you
Hit
go
me
to
with it.
now.
I've
No,
got some. I've changed my mind on a lot of things.
I I for many years have been frustrated with men in the church
Mm-hmm.
because I don't like going to church and seeing fat old men who are undisciplined and are not willing to, take things seriously. Like I heard it way too many times growing up that like your body is a temple and you need to take care of it because God gave you this gift. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. However, if I'm hearing that from somebody who's 200 pounds overweight, can't lift
Right.
a 30-pound box, dude, are you really living what you're preaching? Like, why am I listening to you?
Right.
What's your take on that?
So what you're getting at is the primary thing, in my view, that has pushed an entire generation of millennials away from church, and that is hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
Hypocrisy in the church has pushed almost an entire generation out of the doors, because we sit there and we look at what you're saying, and what you're saying and what you're living don't match. That makes it disingenuous. That makes it something that we don't want to be a part of. My version of that is a little bit different. I didn't see the old guys that just weren't in shape. It wasn't necessarily the body. Your body is a temple. And yes, your body is a temple, but God gave you a body to go fulfill the Great Commission, which is to reach the unreached, to spread the gospel, and to make disciples. And the way
Right.
we make disciples is by leading people. Making disciples isn't evangelism. Evangelism is critical. Making disciples is criticaler. I'm gonna let that one stew for a second. Um,
That's a very
um,
articulate word.
right, criticaler. Uh,
It's
but
that
no,
homeschooled coming out.
right. I promise I was quasi educated. No, my mom did a great job. Um, but no, hypocrisy in the church is horrible. I grew up in a very strict, very orthodox mentality of biblical principle.
Right.
Um, the problem was I always felt, and this isn't a reflection of my upbringing. This isn't a reflection of the church that I grew up in. This is a reflection of me. I always felt like I was inside of a glass box, that I had to present this perfect image to the world. That if I didn't present this image of a perfect kid, I was doing my family a disservice. And what I realized is because of that, I was open to tons of attacks from the devil. And then as I grew up and as I got older and I started facing my dragons, I realized the vast majority of men in the church do the exact same thing. They live one way. They are addicted to gambling, are addicted to alcohol, are addicted to pornography. And then when they come to church, they have halos and they've got it all right. And they've got it all figured out. And the problem that I have with that is, how can I find someone to be like if nobody in the church is being real about their struggles?
Oh yeah.
Because what I promise you is, every single Sunday, if every single person is perfect, they're lying, because none of us are perfect.
Nope.
Sanctification, becoming Christ-like, is a lifelong process. So if year in and year out, you don't hear about any of the sins, the struggles, the trials, the tribulations of any of the men that you look up to, they're not telling you the truth. Full stop. We started going to a church that I never would have thought that I would go to, simply because the title of their denomination. I grew up Orthodoxy, Presbyterian Orthodox. It was very, this is how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
I started going to a Pentecostal church. And the first Sunday that I went, the pastor, at the end of the sermon, that hit me like a ton of bricks, at the end of the sermon, prayed for men that were struggling with pornography. That was the first time in my entire life. I grew up a pastor's son. That was the first time in my entire life where I heard that word from the pulpit. And I realized that. And I realized this is a church where I don't feel hypocrisy. And now I am not saying that my dad's church and his preaching was ever hypocritical, but it was something inside of me that I had to figure out that Satan was attacking me with to get me out of the church. Because if I'm not in church, then my family's not in church. And if we're not in church, then I'm not raising them to be the people that they need to be.
Right.
But I realized I have to deliberately seek out a church that not only doesn't embrace hypocrisy, but actively denounces it. So, to your point, I think the hypocrisy has driven an entire generation away from church on one level or another. Each one of us have something that we can relate to as far as hypocrisy in the church. I didn't have the exact same experience, but I can relate to you on a deep, deep level because I know exactly what you're talking about because I've experienced it in another realm.
How do you think we fix that though? Like, what?
We take the reins. We stand up and say, no, we're not doing this. How about no? A great name for a podcast. How about no?
No.
We stand up and we say, you know what? We're going to be different. We're going to change it right now with us. Because if we sit back and we say, you know what? I wish things were different. And we start pointing the finger at all the people that we feel slighted us in our life. All we're doing is extending that to the next generation and putting the responsibility on our sons and our daughters to fix our problems and our parents' problems and their parents' problems, etc. But if we take ownership and we stand up and say, you know what? How about no? I'm going to get up this Sunday and I'm going to tell the entire church my testimony, and it's ugly.
Church is
That's
supposed to be
what
for
it
broken
takes.
people.
That's what it takes. It takes us being actively uncomfortable. It takes us willingly hurting for the benefit of the people that are listening.
What do you think the United States is a Christian country?
No.
Oh, okay, that was a quick answer. I didn't have a follow-up question ready for
No.
that.
We're not a Christian country. We're not a
Dude,
Christian country.
That one
There are
cracks me up.
let me say, there are a lot of strong believers in the United States. We are fundamentally not a Christian country because we kill millions of babies. We sacrifice millions and millions of babies to Satan every single year. We are not a Christian country. Full stop.
Full stop. Dude, you know what's wild about that?
What?
I was looking up women's health organizations in the area the other day.
Mhm.
And if you type in on Google Maps, I looked up women's health in the area, and there were like 25 options, and every single one of them was listed as an abortion clinic. And I was like, "Are you serious, bro? An abortion clinic? That is insane." Sorry, guys. Hot
All right.
take. If you don't like it, find a
On
different
that note-
podcast because I'm not for you.
On that note, again, not a sponsor, not giving us anything. There's a company called Preborn. For $28, you can provide a mother with a baby in her stomach an ultrasound. For $28. Take your tithe wherever, however you decide to give, however you decide to give your money, it's God's money that he gave you back to him. Go to Preborn and give somebody an ultrasound. Make a difference. It's easy. It's $28.
Well, and it's just
Sorry,
so
no sponsorship. But
Yeah, I know. No. Trust me.
you know it's not a sponsorship because I'm not saying use the code this and this at checkout.
No, yeah. No, Candace Owens, she does a lot of
So does
Preborn
Tucker.
stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tucker does too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard about it on Tucker, and I was convicted to give some money.
Good for you, man. That's
What I'm
stuff's
struggling
so
with.
Crazy.
What I'm struggling with is should I put my mouth where my money is, or put myself where my money is, and start looking into adoption. I've got 3 beautiful little kids. It's wild, it's crazy, it's hectic, and it's already stretched tight enough. I don't feel like I should responsibly adopt. That being said, there are kids out there that are hurting.
I mean, yeah, there are. I don't know. I'm not in the same place that you
I'm
are.
not-
That one's a hard one, dude. How did
Yeah.
because I do think that, like, adoption is important. And I do think that people that, have that in their heart, should do that.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't really given the adoption thing much thought because I've kind of been more focused on, like, dude, how do we get the abortion thing to
Let me just
chill
say
out?
this. Let me just say this. If we put, as a country, a quarter of the amount of money into supporting young mothers that are struggling, as we did into the killing of those innocent babies, abortion will drop so much. By millions.
Not only that, but okay, what is with the whole, like, pushing men to be these just like weak people
who
about?
can't who aren't allowed to say abortion is wrong because
Oh, no,
it's
no.
not your body, not your choice. Let me get into that.
Hot take.
A hot take. Let me get into that. All right. Here's the thing. If I walk out on the street, I'm 6'1" ish, 200 ish
Sure.
pounds. If I walk out in the street and I see a 10-year-old girl getting abducted or the snot beaten out, let's say a 10-year-old girl is getting the snot beaten out of her on the side of the road,
Sure.
and I see it, and I say nothing because that's not my business, I'm not going to go to jail. But could I ever look myself in the mirror again? Could I ever
No.
set foot in any of the social circles again
No.
for not stopping it or at least saying something or at least trying? If
No.
I
It's,
believe
you have a responsibility as a man to
If-
step in and do something.
100%, and if I believe, now I'm not going to try to change your belief because I'm not a scientist, but if I believe that a heartbeat is a life, that a child is alive in utero, and I don't say anything, why is that good? How does that make me a man? How does that make me a human being? Sorry.
No,
Ah.
I agree, man. I don't understand why it takes two people to make a baby, but only one person gets a say in it. I understand that it might change a woman's body for a time. However, that's another person. That's another person. And motherhood, I said this on a previous podcast. I think that motherhood is the most important job in the world, bar none.
100%.
You are the only person. You're the only group of people. Mothers are the only group of people that literally create the future generations. Anything good that comes from future generations is directly the responsibility of the mother. Like, that's huge. You're also
think-
not the. It takes two though. It takes
I
two
think
though,
I
and
think it's I think it's a responsibility of the mother and the father.
No,
I think
for
that
sure,
that
for
as
sure.
men we
But
need to
only
step up
only
and,
one
and
only
well,
one person creates people.
you are 100% correct. And I think men and women can't do each other's jobs.
No.
Men and women are inherently different. And if you disagree with me, I guess you've never had a young boy and a young girl in the same house. I have 2 sons and 1 daughter. Trust me, they're different. But it takes, if we as men sit back and say, you know what, we have nothing to do with it. Women are just the people that raise the kids, and it's up to them. Now, I'm not saying that you're saying that, but what I'm trying to get across is we as men have to take responsibility and ownership for the impact that we have on our kids and the impact that we have on the next generation.
Oh, absolutely. And it's our job to protect and provide. So if we're not
Mhm.
protecting the next generation that we're helping to create,
Mhm.
what are we doing? It's our God-given responsibility to stand up for those
It's
who
our
cannot stand up
God-given
for themselves.
responsibility to stop the loss of innocent life if we can.
Absolutely. That's why men go and fight wars. That's why men become police officers. That's why. And I'm not saying that women can't do that too. Kudos to you if you can hang. If you're with it and you're about it, more power to you. No problem with that. However,
Let's put it this way. FBI studies suggest, not only suggest, they highly imply, and you might even say directly state, fatherless household, the children are more likely to be involved in crime, to be involved in problems later on, significant problems with the state or with the federal government, than houses that grow up with strong male leadership. Folks, I made an infactual statement. I just looked it up. The study, fatherhoods and fathers in the house. The most prominent title or most prominent study is titled "Effect of Father Abstinence and Father Alternatives on Female and Male Rates of Violence," conducted in 2003 by Jennifer Schwartz. The paper uses violent crime data from the FBI's UCR program. It is not a study by the FBI. So, my apologies. I made an incorrect statement. Back to this.
oh yeah.
It's an
Oh,
FBI
yeah.
study, folks. If you don't like them, I don't know what you're doing. The FBI is amazing, by the way. Aren't they just great?
Oh, don't get me started, man. Well, hey, I'm coming up on my time, but let's wrap it up.
I mean,
You had a couple of things you wanted to plug. I think you should go ahead and hit those. We don't have any
Uh,
sponsors for the show at the moment, but
oh, I don't have anything to plug. If you want to take a concealed carry class, concealcoalition.com, toss your zip code in, CC 1026, get you 20% off. Also helps me out a little bit, so I appreciate it. I might be starting a podcast, so definitely keep listening to Isaiah for a long time because mine's gonna suck, folks.
oh no, it'll be great. He needs to have more positive affirmation in his life. But yeah, hey, thanks for coming on. We'll have you on again for sure, and
Yeah, man.
we'll see everybody next time.
All right, love you, bro. See you
Love
guys.
you too, man.